This is your 20-minute podcast, where we do our best to give you useful information in 20 minutes or less. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/your 20-minute podcast. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Now, here's your host, David Brower.
This is David Brower with your 20-minute podcast, and our special guest today is Nicholas Upchurch from Miami Beach, Florida. How are you, Nicholas?
Good, David. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It looks like you've got a great background in digital marketing. The companies which you've owned have generated millions of dollars in sales within a very short period of time. And although you were able to build a business that was very successful, you traveled 33 countries. You played football in front of 110,000 fans. Is that American football or the other kind?
Yes, sir. Yeah, at the Big House, University of Michigan, yeah.
Oh, there you go. That is the Big House. Good for you. And now, after all that great success, through an interesting turn of events and exploring the difficult parts of life that we all encounter from time to time, your focus has kind of changed now. Tell us about that.
Sure. So we have a website, believe.love, and our podcast, believeitunes.com. And basically, I went to Peru. I had an ayahuasca ceremony. Ayahuasca is a plant medicine that Tim Ferriss talks about, the 4-hour work week guy. You know, he has a big podcast himself. So he talks about ayahuasca, and it's a plant medicine which can really open up some doors. People with PTSD, a lot of former soldiers go down, people processing really tough things in life, you know, even sometimes women that were, you know, to be honest, raped and things like that. Really, really tough things. You know, people will go to Peru and they will have these ceremonies and really try to connect with something because they're maybe desperate. And I, to be honest, was one of those people. And my brother died when I was very young. You know, we all have things happen. So for me, that was what I would say is a blessing now. At first, it seemed like a curse when I was very, very young. It seemed...
Sure.
And I think, you know, sometimes when we talk about business or just life, there are reasons why we don't actually do the steps we need to do. Of course, there are a lot of great info products out there, and David has great information, and I try to as well. But what are the reasons we actually don't do what we need to do? And I actually have been one of those people too. And I think a lot of that is deeper, you know, and it's very difficult to want to even look at some of this stuff inside of ourselves and everything. So that's basically something, ayahuasca, it's just one way, you know, prayer. And actually they use ayahuasca legally at Christian churches in New Mexico and Oregon. It went to the Supreme Court and they got approved from Brazil. Brazilian Christian churches use ayahuasca. Sting, the singer Sting, wrote 60 pages on ayahuasca in his autobiography, and he's a laid-back guy. You know, he said it was the Godhead. Right. He said it connected him really to God. What I picked up was that God is everything, all of us, and we are all part of God, but everybody has their own experiences. So I think looking at the tough things and really getting into things and maybe helping people with that as well can help us actually take action, be aware, pay attention to details, and actually do the steps we need to do to succeed, whatever that may mean to whoever's listening.
And oftentimes we find success in different ways. We define success in different ways. I mean, it appears to me that you were, and still are in some way, I'm sure, an extremely driven young man playing college football, all the success you had. I don't pretend to know why that is. I'm curious whether you think it's about the passing of your brother. But you sure had a ton of drive going on there for a long time, and now it appears your drive is turned more inward. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, I did feel like I was 8 or 9 and avenging him or something. I did. I was 55 pounds, 55 pounds of fury when I was 8 or 9, and somehow, and you know, I'm about maybe 5'8", 170, and I broke my back when I was 15. I was in a back brace for 6 months, and then I played nose tackle at 155 pounds, which was based on quickness, but that's a position where 300-pound guys play in college. And in college, I then became a wide receiver, and which was the fast people position, you know, and so anyway. That was overcoming some odds. But, you know, part of my company, it's called Love, L-O-V-E ! It's actually, I formed it out of necessity because honestly, I had so much anger and things like that, that it was a great gift, the anger. And sometimes to look at the tough things in anybody's life, whoever's listening to this, as a gift can be so hard. That anger, if it weren't for that anger, I wouldn't have looked into anything that actually we're probably on this planet to maybe do. We're not here to just make money necessarily and die.
Right.
In my opinion, we could be, and it can be a noble thing to take care of our families or people and ourselves. And, we all have to pay bills. That's the bottom line. So I'm totally about that. But, those tough things that keep occurring, so we all have sometimes patterns that come up. Those could be the things that maybe something is showing you, hey, we got to look at that. And if it weren't for that anger, I wouldn't have gotten on this path of also trying to harmonize the world and all the tough things in the world, including the spirituality crowd. That's kind of the focus now, yeah.
So how did you get opened up to all this? I mean, obviously you've had great success. You had some life-changing moments, obviously, in Peru. Was that the turning point for you?
It opened things up, but I still did a lot of dumb things after that. And I'm still, we can have these deeply implanted patterns. But what I would say is there have been studies on consciousness, like the University of Southampton in the UK, and doctors studied 2,000 people. They found that consciousness, people are aware of things 3 minutes after their heart and brain stop functioning, which should be impossible. And to be honest, what I've gotten is that we're energetic beings in a human body right now. And I've been in the human body doing dumb things. Meaning, if a certain trigger comes up of something, you get angry because somebody's late. And so I had this experience in Peru. I started doing Kundalini yoga a few years before. Kundalini yoga helped me a lot. Meditating, not until I was 27 or 28 did I start meditating a little bit. And it's been a cycle. It hasn't been like something happened and I became perfect. And for anybody out there, you don't just have to figure everything out and then you're perfect. There's going to be maybe like the stock market, up and down, and then hopefully you keep harmonizing things. It can be in a circular spiral pattern. It doesn't have to be a straight linear path to perfection. There's been a lot of things that have contributed to it. Again, even people who like prayer, Christianity, people who are into the faith of Islam, all of it can be good. And it can be that can be what the world is doing. And without the winter, we wouldn't know what summer is. So what I would say is all these tough things in the world, we can harmonize them, but I think we do that with love and not hating what we think we should hate. If we can try to love what we think we should hate, over time, these things can kind of harmonize. And if it weren't for those bad things, we would have no reference point to see what the good things are. So we can hopefully try to be thankful of those things more, even though I have to do the same thing even now, because it can be tough when something's irritating.
Absolutely. And I like your analogy. We wouldn't know what summer was without winter. That makes perfect sense to me. And it also feels like, to coin an old phrase, this has got to be a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, I could think about that a little bit better. Even with you right now, I have to take a breath, and I think as long as we can just become aware of, hey, when do I act funny? Like, I know I act funny for various things. Just we're starting to be aware of that. People can notice things about themselves. And when you do that for yourself and for others, you'll start to notice, what can I do in my business? What are the competitors doing? Which hopefully our competitors can become our joint venture partners. But what's their upsell, Pat? How much are they charging for their upsells? How are they getting their customers? How much does it cost to get a customer? How can they scale up? How could I offer a product that's a little bit different or better? It all actually goes together, but being happy and healthy, like you said, and thinking of things as maybe a longer term. In fact, so many people have done past life regressions. Dr. Brian Weiss from Yale, he's the head of psychiatry at Mount Sinai Hospital in Miami Beach, which is also in New York. It's a big hospital. The head of psychiatry, he's done thousands of past life regressions where you'll have a 6-year-old that will say they were a British soldier in 1512. They'll go back, they'll see that soldier actually existed, and the 6-year-old knows the wife, everybody, and they've done this thousands of times. So when we're saying it's a marathon, it actually could stretch over lifetimes. It could. I'm not saying, I know everything, but for me, that's what I've gotten.
It is. I love stories like that, and especially when it's thousands and not 4 or 5. It has to get your attention, even to the most cynical of persons, I would hope.
Yeah, Dr. Brian Weiss, Dr. Ian Stevenson studied this for, I think, 40 years at the University of Virginia. They say maybe Constantine might have taken reincarnation out of the Bible, with Rome. And for me to think, hey, you know what? These bad things have happened, but I might not be getting, anybody listening to this, it may be that we chose to come into this life to experience some of the tough things. I may have set that up with my brother ahead of time. And it can change our perspective on that. Oh, I'm just not screwed in this life and then I'm going to die. Like, there might be more to the story. I can definitely tell you, I'm 100% sure of that. The degree of things, I can definitely say, I couldn't say this 10 years ago, there is a lot more going on for us than just this human body and just this lifetime.
I talked to a person a while ago, and another one of these podcast interviews, and she brought up an amazing question to me, which is so simple, but yet so complicated for us to hang on to, I think, and that is, what is possible?
Sure. That's an amazing thought.
What is possible? And so how do you wrap your brain around that? I mean, you have to become open to things that maybe you weren't comfortable with 5 or 10 years ago. Maybe there's I call them old tapes, triggers, things in there from previous experiences in your life that mask maybe some of the opportunities that are right there in front of your nose,
You're very right, David. In fact, you look up multiverses and Princeton, and there was in the 50s, a professor proved multiverses, which could mean alternate universes happening at the same time, alternate versions of yourself happening all at the same time. I mean, and it's Princeton. It's not like just some spare, and it's not publicized a lot, but anybody can look that up. Literally what you're saying in my answer to that is everything is possible. And it all could be correct when somebody's like, well, what? Well, maybe everything. And then we have to make choices. I mean, I'm very much into like reality as well. I have to pay for things. I have to, it's not, we got to actually do things. But yeah, the answer could be everything. And I say could to be a little bit open, not to say, but if you look at some things, multiverses, and you look at, multiple lifetimes, and you look at Nassim Haramein as a physicist, Nassim, Nassim, and then Haramein is something like Haramein. Google will autocorrect it. But he's proven things that Einstein hasn't. He's been published in mainstream scientific journals. And just about the number of universes, it's just his work is absolutely amazing. So I would definitely recommend people might check that out. And what is it going to do for you or me? Well, it basically means that, first of all, we can have hope. That basically there's a lot possible for us and our story. We're not just a slave to our conditions, our personality, our brain right now, our tough times. There's more to the story, and it can take some of the pressure off, like, things needing to be perfect or people stressing themselves out. I still think the thing that we all can do better, me included, do what we say we're going to do, pay attention. Lloyd Carr, the national championship coach I played for at U of M football, he would yell, be on time, pay attention. Pay attention to all of the details about things, and then just take action. Actually do what you say you're going to do, and try to under-promise and over-deliver. And again, all of us can do that, me included more, but under-promise and over-deliver versus the opposite. And to be honest, I've dealt with hundreds of thousands of dollars. We were about to spend 6 figures with some company. They just haven't gotten back to us. Honestly, we've emailed them 3 or 4 times. They're losing hundreds of thousands potentially in ad spend because they can't because they simply aren't following up. And I mean, I've had this happen sometimes more in different things. Now, some people are really sharp and they follow up, but get on the ball, do what you say. And I can do that more too, but that's something that will make you stick out.
Absolutely right. And integrity, what a concept.
And again, I have to do everything more and more. I'm definitely not perfect yet,
Yeah.
And, honesty. And the truth is, like for me, saying I'm not perfect, you can hear it in my voice. I can be very zen, but right now I'm a little bit hyped up. But you know what? I'm human. One thing, David, I think is interesting. People can say one word and have completely different meanings. So what does it come down to? Finding out what the other person's definition of that word is and getting on the same page, whether it's honesty or on-time payments or when the job is going to be done, or the definition of when somebody says quality, what does that mean to both parties? So understanding the other person's definition of one word and them understanding yours and getting on the same page, I think could help everybody a lot.
One of the words that I've had problems without paying attention to it, really, taking it too literally, is the word fear. And so I throw that word fear out. Are you afraid of that? Do you have fear of this? And really, as I think about it, and I've talked to other folks about it, because I honestly believe that fear is a big part of our lives. But as I think about it and talk to other people about it, my definition really needs to be more about anxiety than fear. If you walk into an elevator and you're afraid of that guy, it's just a natural reaction for you to be afraid of somebody. The hair on your arm's going to stick up. Well, You're afraid. Get the hell out of there, But if you're having some anxiety about dealing with a vendor who doesn't want to take your 6 figures of money, that's a totally different thing,
Yeah, there's a couple ways to look at it. You're right. Some people, fear is what keeps us alive ultimately. Otherwise, if we knew this world was fake or a simulation or different things that people say, I don't think it's a mechanical simulation, by the way, like Westworld, but then we just jump off, we do crazy things. Fear can be good. We can learn to love what we hate, and I think that's what harmonizes things. But just at first being aware, okay, so that's the first step. Like, I get excited when I have a 20-minute podcast to do. I talk fast. Okay, so I do that. That's okay. I get anxiety for girls or whoever when there's a bunch of guys around, or something. Yeah, okay, that's okay. Like, maybe in some cases that would be actually smart. But then some people also say there's love and there's fear, and those are the two emotions. And I think there's something to that as well. But I think by loving the fear and becoming more aware of it, we might be able to work that out with ourselves and others. And I know I have to do that more with my funny reactions. So there's just a lot of elements going on. I don't know that we could just become socialists and cooperate, and that the entities or the things at the top might just give everybody everything initially. I think there's some benefits to competition. Obviously, you can see the evolution over time. People used to be gladiators. Now there's a lot of talk about concussions, but ultimately I think we're all on the same team, but things aren't that. I'm talking about countries, and we can all be on the same team, but I think there can be some tough elements at the top where people need to be aware that it's sometimes it might require a little bit more winter and a little bit of toughness at the top to kind of try to get everything fair. So we're going to have the International Love Congress. We're going to invite people, hopefully government leaders, heads of religions, all the spiritual people that we can get, and try to have a big event here in Miami in the end of the year. So anyway, we'll see how that goes.
What a project. Is it coming along for you?
Well, we're just starting it. There's a lot to do. I've hired a few people that will work on that. And, there's something called Conscious Life Expo in LA, which is really great, consciouslifeexpo.com. And there's nothing really like that on the East Coast. So we would love to do something similar, but a little bit different. So we'll see. But I'm trying to reach out to the people we think are big and bad and the evil government, and whether you're Republican or Democrat or whatever. And then the people above the Republicans and Democrats, the corporations. But it's not that they're evil. It's just that we can also propose other ways, hopefully. So we'll see.
Right. Well, and so much of it, as you said earlier, comes down to the ability to be able to understand one another's language.
You're right. That's really smart. Love is really, I think, understanding, David. I think I can understand people better. And I think when people really... what connects somebody? When they feel understood. And in sales, it's the same. And it's about solving people's problems. And if somebody feels understood, you understand, a lot of people care about money in business. So I go back to that sometimes. But if they feel understood and you really genuinely care about them, they will trust you. And you got to do the right thing. You got to actually deliver, and understanding is love,
Until next time, don't forget to download your free audiobook at audibletrial.com/your 20-minute podcast. That's audibletrial.com/your 20-minute podcast for your free audiobook. And thanks for listening to Your 20-Minute Podcast with David Brower.